The morning light of my birthday spilled through the bedroom curtains like it did every day. Gentle, warm gold, familiar. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in my hand, watching the 3 dots appear and disappear on the screen. Samuel was typing. When the message finally showed up, it felt like watching a slow-motion accident. I couldn't stop. "Baby, I'm sorry, but I have to skip your birthday dinner tonight. The quarterly report is insanely tense. Amanda is putting pressure on the whole department. Let's make it up another time. I love you." I read those lines twice, then a third time. 35 years old, my birthday. The one day I had asked him to keep free for the past 3 weeks. The only evening I had circled in red on the calendar hanging in the kitchen, where he stood every morning making coffee. Chloe was still asleep in the next room. I could hear her steady breathing through the baby monitor on the shelf. We could have switched to a new bed 2 years ago, but Samuel said we should save the money, just in case. He always said that. Just in case of what? I never really understood. I typed back, "It's okay. Work is important. We'll celebrate later." 3 words. "It's okay," that I've said so many times they've become a reflex. It's okay. The most common translation of, "I'm hurt, but I'm used to hiding it because saying it out loud wouldn't change anything anyway." I put the phone down on the table next to the bracelet he bought me last Christmas. Not exactly as a Christmas gift, but because he felt guilty for missing Christmas Eve to go to a company party with Amanda. His boss always seemed to know how to throw extravagant parties. The house was quiet in that very specific way that only exists on mornings when you're alone with your own thoughts. I heard the fridge humming downstairs, the old pipes groaning inside the walls, and even the neighbor's dog barking lazily around 7 a.m., like always. I had asked for today off 6 weeks ago. My boss even wrote clearly on the office's shared calendar, "Shirley's birthday, off." I had planned to sleep in, make Chloe the chocolate chip pancakes she loved most, and if the weather was nice, take her to the park. And tonight, Samuel and I were supposed to have dinner at the small Italian restaurant where we had our first date 11 years ago. I had made a reservation. I knew exactly what I was going to order. I had even imagined the way he would look at me in the blue dress I only wore when I wanted to feel really beautiful. But then, work was busy. I stood up and stretched. Since when did the girl who used to run 5 kilometers every morning become the woman who groans just bending down to tie her shoes like this? At least this house was paid off. My parents left it to me after they passed, and that was the one thing Samuel couldn't complain about when it came to money. "At least we don't have to worry about rent," I often reminded him whenever he got stressed over expenses. But lately, he worried less about costs and talked more about experiences, about travel, about luxury, about having to live fully before it was too late to enjoy it. He said we needed to live bigger, more lavishly. We needed trips that people show off on Instagram. I walked down the stairs barefoot, the wooden floor ice cold under the soles of my feet. October in Connecticut meant the heating bill would start dancing again. Another expense to calculate, another conversation where Samuel would sigh and tell me I was suffocating him with too much practicality. The kitchen still carried the faint smell of coffee I had set on a timer for 6:30. I poured myself a black cup and leaned against the window frame, looking out at the backyard. The maple leaves were starting to burn red outside. Chloe's swing was still swaying lightly in the wind. The swing I built myself 3 summers ago. 4 weekends of work and 6 trips to Leroy Merlin, because I measured wrong. I built it without Samuel. My phone buzzed. I thought it was Samuel with another apology. Something to soften everything. Something like, "I'll make it up to you, I promise." That script should have shown up. But no, it was my sister. "You're 35 already, really old now. Happy birthday." Then a few old friends, short wishes, warm, sincere. Just not Samuel. I heard Chloe's footsteps on the stairs. She burst into the kitchen in her princess pajamas, her face lighting up when she saw me. "Happy birthday, Mom." She hugged me tight with all the weight of her tiny body, and I lifted her up, spun her around like an old habit, the way my parents used to do with me when I was little. Chloe laughed out loud, and in that moment, everything else disappeared. Just the 2 of us. That was enough. At least, I tried to believe it was enough. We stayed in the kitchen for nearly an hour, drowning in flour, chocolate chips, and silly riddles that made Chloe laugh as if she'd just heard the funniest thing in the world. She told me about school yesterday, about a kid who got in trouble for smearing glue into a girl's hair, about how the teacher said they'd learn about dinosaurs next week. A little later, chewing on her pancake, she asked, "Where's Dad, Mom?" I told her he went to work early. There was a big project. She nodded as if it were obvious, as if she were already used to that. And she was used to it. This was our normal. After breakfast, I cleaned up while Chloe watched cartoons in the living room. I kept picking up my phone and putting it back down. Still nothing from Samuel beyond the morning text. Not even a single happy birthday, just silence. At 10:30, my phone finally rang. I answered faster than I wanted to admit. "Shirley, today is really chaos. Amanda made everything twice as complicated. Miss you?" I stared at the words, "miss you." 2 words that sounded as fake as checking a required box. I texted back, "It's okay. Chloe and I are having fun. Hope work goes well." The 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then nothing. I took Chloe to the park like I had planned. We fed the ducks at the little pond. Chloe laughed every time the ducks waddled toward us, and I took who knows how many photos, as if saving that moment could somehow prove to myself that this was enough, that I should be grateful, that I wasn't slowly turning into a blurry extra in my own life. Around 2 in the afternoon, Chloe's friend Lucas and his mom, Jennifer, showed up at the park. Jennifer was always put together. Neat hair, perfectly matched clothes. "Shirley, I didn't expect to see you here. Isn't today your birthday?" "Yeah, I took a day off." "That's great. Where's Samuel?" "Work, a project, a deadline." Jennifer's smile froze for just a split second, very fast, but I still caught it. "Oh, must be important." The kids ran off to the slide, and Jennifer sat down next to me on the bench. We watched them climb in the familiar silence of parents who are used to seeing each other at the school gate, at volunteer events, at birthday parties. "How long has it been?" she asked quietly. "How long has what been? How long has it been since he started pulling away?" I turned to look at Jennifer. She wasn't smiling anymore. Her eyes carried something that looked like pity, and I hated that feeling. "I don't know what you're talking about. I've known you two for 4 years. I've seen a few things. Parents talk." She paused for a beat and then continued. "I just want you to know that if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here, no judgment." I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know how to face the idea that maybe the things I worked so hard not to see, other people had seen for a long time. "We're fine," I said. "Just busy. You know how it is." Jennifer nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. "Yeah, busy. Either way, my offer still stands." At 4 in the afternoon, I brought Chloe home. I left her downstairs among her dolls and told her to go upstairs and change her clothes. And right at that moment, I made the mistake of opening Instagram. I rarely used social media. My account was almost nothing but pictures of Chloe. But Samuel was different. He posted everything. His morning coffee, the outfit he wore to work, motivational quotes at the office. He had nearly 3,000 followers. He once explained to me, "That's personal branding. It's important for your career." I scrolled down. Jennifer posted a photo of Lucas at the park. The wife of an old classmate announced that she was pregnant. And then I saw Samuel, a post shared exactly 1 hour earlier. It was an image of an office meeting room decorated lavishly like something straight off a Pinterest board. Silver and gold balloon arches. A custom birthday cake that looked like it cost hundreds of dollars. A table covered with expensive wine bottles and gift boxes wrapped in fancy paper. Rose gold light everywhere. A banner hanging high with the words, "Happy Birthday, Amanda," written in flowing script. Samuel stood in the photo, right next to his boss, Amanda. The 43-year-old woman, her hair neatly styled, the confident smile of someone who was always used to standing at the center. Her arm was wrapped around my husband's waist. Samuel was smiling brightly, the kind of smile I hadn't seen him give me in months. The caption below read, "When it's the boss's birthday, you celebrate properly." Not just a great leader, but also a wonderful friend and mentor. Here's to conquering many more goals together. I sat down on the edge of the bed, read those words again, looked again at that photo, looked at the balloons, the cake, the gifts, and my husband's smile. Work is busy. I lifted my finger to the screen. I could press like. I could comment. But I did nothing. I just stared. Then I heard Chloe's voice. "Mom, are you okay?" I looked up. She was standing in the doorway, still holding a doll, her big brown eyes looking at me as if she understood more than a 6-year-old ever should. "I'm okay." "You look sad." She climbed onto the bed, sat close, leaned her head against my shoulder. "Dad forgot your birthday again, didn't he?" That question hit me like a punch. She had noticed. Of course she had noticed. Every late dinner, every Sunday he was absent, every time he promised to come home early and then texted an apology at the last minute. She had watched her mother slowly disappear from a life that seemed to no longer have room for the two of us. "Dad is just busy with work," I said, as I always said, like a habit that had been programmed into me. Chloe looked at the photo on my phone and said very quietly, "But Dad remembers his boss's birthday." I had no answer. The two of us sat there in silence for a long time. Then Chloe looked up. "I'll make you a birthday card, Mom." She ran off to get her colored pencils and craft paper. I stayed alone in the room, staring at that photo, at the balloons, the cake, my husband's smile, at the proof that he had time to prepare a party, had money to buy expensive gifts, had the energy to celebrate someone else. Just not for me. I thought about texting him, thought about asking why he lied, thought about demanding an explanation, but I didn't do any of that. Instead, I did something else. Something quiet. Something that wouldn't explode right now, but would wait until the truth was ripe enough to blow up. I opened my laptop and started making calls. By 9 o'clock that night, everything had changed. The work I was doing required focus, precision, and a kind of calm that I didn't truly have, but had learned to pretend to wear on my face for a very long time. When you are the person who is always stable, always patient, the one who never makes waves, you become skilled at keeping your face blank, even when everything inside is screaming. The first call I made was to Marcus, my old college friend. He studied law. "Shirley, happy birthday. I was planning to call you later," Marcus said. I replied, "Thank you. I need to ask you something legal." There was a slight pause on the other end of the line. I could almost see him sitting in his office with the harbor outside the window, probably still in his suit, even though it was already late. "What's going on? Are you okay?" "I'm okay. I just want to ask a few things about asset protection, hypothetically." This silence lasted longer. Marcus was smart enough to know that, hypothetically, was usually a way of circling around things that weren't ready to be named. Protection from what? From a marriage that might not be as solid as I once thought. I heard him exhale softly. "My God, Shirley, is it Samuel?" "I don't know yet. Maybe I'm overthinking. But I need to know what my options are, what I should document, and how to protect Chloe if things go bad." Marcus fully switched into lawyer mode. "Okay. First question. Do you two have a prenuptial agreement?" "Yes." "Joint accounts?" "Yes, one checking and one savings." "Whose name is the house in?" "Mine. My parents left it to me before we got married." "Good. Very good. Inherited property usually remains separate property if it's not excessively commingled. Is Samuel listed as a co-owner, or have you refinanced it jointly with him?" "No." "Also good. What about your incomes?" "He makes a bit more than I do." "So the power balance isn't too skewed." Marcus paused, then asked directly, "Do you have proof of an affair?" The question hung between us like a trail of smoke. What counted as proof? A gut feeling? Anxiety? A photo of Samuel smiling next to Amanda as if she were the sun in his life? "No concrete proof yet," I answered hesitantly. "Then this is what you need to do," Marcus said, his voice completely different now. "Document everything, every message. Every time he says he's working late, write down the date and time. Any unusual expenses. Don't confront him yet. You need information first. Check the phone records, the credit card statements, and surely you should open a separate bank account in your own name. Transfer an amount that's enough for you to take care of yourself if things go bad. Not to hide assets, just for safety. Don't let it show. And if you're serious, hire a private investigator." The second call I made was to the bank. I opened a new account, just a simple checking account, then transferred $3,000 into it from our joint account. Not too obvious, but enough to create the first safety net. The third call was the hardest of all. I called my sister, Rachel. She lived 2 hours away by car, had a family and 2 kids, and had never really liked Samuel. "He's too slick," she once said after their first meeting. "Always feels like he's performing." Back then, I thought she was just being overprotective of her little sister. Now I wondered how many other things she had seen that I, because I trusted too much, had ignored. "Little sister," Rachel answered. "Happy birthday. Tell me Samuel is planning something huge for you." "He's working late. Something came up at the company." There was silence for a few seconds on the other end. "Are you kidding me? Surely it's your birthday, your actual birthday. And he's at the office? The office has someone dying or what?" I heard her moving, probably stepping into another room so the kids wouldn't hear. She had always been very clear about marriage, about respect, about the bare minimum a spouse should have. I told her about the photo on Instagram, about the smile I no longer received. Rachel was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was completely different. Lower, slower, more dangerous. "What do you need me to do?" "Just be ready. If everything falls apart, Chloe may need to stay with you for a while." "Of course." "Shirley," Rachel said before hanging up, "I'm proud of you for no longer just enduring it. You deserve better." I wasn't sure what I deserved, but I was grateful she had said it. After the call ended, I sat quietly for a while with my own thoughts. Then I opened the laptop again and did the thing I had been avoiding for months. I checked the credit card statements. We had 3 cards, 2 shared, 1 in my name, but Samuel still used it. I logged into each account, scrolled through every line of spending, looking for a pattern, for something off. And what I saw made my stomach twist. Charges from high-end restaurants I had never set foot in, places with fixed menus and wine lists so long you'd have to mortgage your house. $200 here, $300 there. Always on weeknights. Always labeled as business dinner. Then payments to the Meridian Hotel, 4 times in 3 months. Every time on a Thursday night. Every time around $350. Thursdays. The same Thursdays, Samuel told me he was staying late at the office. The midnight texts. "I'm too tired to drive home. I'll crash at the office." And I would reply, "Drive safe tomorrow. I love you." He hadn't been at the office. He had been at the Meridian Hotel. I slumped into the chair, feeling as if the floor had vanished beneath my feet. There it was. This was the proof. Not direct proof of an affair yet, but proof of months of lies. My hands started to shake. It was funny, I thought. This was what betrayal felt like in real time. "Mom." Chloe stood at the door, holding a card made of colored paper. "I'm done." I closed the laptop, tried to pull my face back into the most normal expression I could manage. "Let Mom see." The card was beautiful in the way only children's drawings can be. Innocent, a little messy, but overflowing with love. She drew 2 of us as stick figures holding hands. Me and her, no Samuel. We were both smiling, a sun in the corner of the page, a house. Above it was messy writing. "Happy birthday, Mom. You are the best." I just held the card and felt something crack open in my chest. "Thank you. I love you," I said. "Are you crying?" "No, Mom is just very happy." Chloe hugged me, and I hugged her longer than usual, as if she were the only real thing left in a world that had suddenly been covered in darkness and lies. After I put my daughter to bed, my phone rang. Samuel's name showed up on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. I needed a few seconds to find my voice again, a few seconds to sound normal. "Hey, I'm sorry. Today is probably going to be even later than I thought." His voice came through, familiar yet distant. "Amanda wants to go over the whole presentation again for Monday. It has to be perfect. I probably won't be home before 10:11 tonight." I looked at the laptop screen still open in front of me, where the Meridian Hotel charges were still sitting there plainly. "It's okay," I said. "You should keep working." "Are you mad?" "Shirley, come on. I know this is bad. I know I promised. But this is my career. You have to understand, there are times when work has to come first. Work. Of course. It was always work. I understand, I replied. I'm just tired. It's been a long day, right? And also, it is my birthday. There was a brief silence on the other end. I'm sorry, I really am. We'll make it up this weekend, okay? I'll make it really special. Special, like the party he had just thrown for Amanda. I love you. The words drifted out lightly, like something people say because it's in the script, not because it rises from the heart. I love you too, I answered, even though in my head the word too had fallen away a long time ago. I hung up and sat in the quiet house. My house, the one my parents left me, the place where I once imagined would be full of family dinners and simple, warm birthday parties. Samuel would not be coming home tonight, I knew that. I picked up my phone, found the number Marcus had sent, and dialed. A man answered on the first ring. Webb and Associates Investigations, this is Tony. Hi, my name is Shirley. Marcus referred me. I need surveillance. Suspected infidelity. When would you like us to start? I glanced at the laptop, at the repeating Thursdays and the word meridian. This Thursday, I said. I need someone to follow my husband when he says he's staying in the city for work. Tony asked for Samuel's office address, physical description, car, license plate. I gave him every detail. He asked about the usual hotel timing, and I told him what I had pieced together from the statements. He read me the fee, the procedure, the confidentiality agreement. I read my card number to him for the deposit. After I hung up, I sat for a long time in the dark living room. I didn't turn on the lights. I just sat there, listening to the wall clock tick and thinking about the life I thought I was living. I didn't go up to the bedroom. The bed that was supposed to be ours now only made me think of white hotel sheets somewhere in the city where my husband might be lying with another person on things that cost as much as a whole month of food for my daughter and me. I took a pillow and a blanket and went to the guest room. Tomorrow I would get up, make breakfast for Chloe, take her to school, go to work, pretend everything was still the same. But tonight, I allowed myself to admit for the first time that our marriage had already fallen apart. Wednesday morning arrived with rain. Not the gentle, romantic kind, but the kind that slammed straight into the windows like it was angry, turning the streets into muddy streams, making you wonder why you ever chose to leave the house. I had barely slept. The guest bed was soft enough, but my mind kept spinning with scenarios, with explanations that might turn everything into a misunderstanding. Maybe those hotel charges were reasonable. Maybe everything was just a coincidence. Maybe I was pushing things too far. But then the image of Samuel in that photo with Amanda came back. His smile, her arm around his waist, his eyes aimed at another woman. And I knew I wasn't crazy. Chloe shuffled into the kitchen at 7:15, later than usual because I forgot to set the alarm. In the chaos of a marriage coming apart, I was failing even at the most basic parts of being a mother. She looked at me with eyes far older than 6, the kind of look a child gets when they already know adults lie to cover ugly things. Dad didn't come home last night, she said softly. My hand froze in midair. What did you say? I got up to use the bathroom at midnight. Dad's car wasn't in the garage. Of course it wasn't, because he hadn't been working late at the office. He had been at the Meridian or somewhere else, but definitely not in this house. Dad texted Mom, I said, which was true. Dad was too tired, stayed in the city to make it easier. The lie had been upgraded, sounded more reasonable now. Okay, Chloe replied. But I heard the disappointment clearly in her voice. I saw the way her shoulders sagged just a little as she picked up her slice of bread. On the drive to school, we were almost silent. Just the sound of the rain and the weak resistance of the windshield wipers going back and forth. Before getting out of the car, she hugged me very tight, tighter than usual, then ran through the rain into the school. I sat there for a few seconds, letting the horns behind me urge me forward. Then I drove on. My office was in a dull building in the industrial district, the kind of building that could be anything: an insurance company, an accounting firm, a tech startup. I did administrative work, numbers, paperwork, emails, a stable job, decent pay, but one that didn't follow me home. All that day, I buried myself in spreadsheets, emails, small meetings, grateful that my mind was being pulled away from that black hole. But at lunch, sitting alone in my car with a sandwich, I picked up my phone again. This time, it wasn't Instagram, but the carrier app, the family account. Every call, every message was there. I scrolled to Samuel's section, looked through every line of calls and texts over the past 3 months. A long string of messages sent to the same unfamiliar number, over and over, all day, at night, in the morning, on weekends. Some days they messaged each other more than 50 times. I unblocked caller ID and tried calling. 3 rings. "This is Amanda." I hung up. I stared at the phone like it was a grenade with the pin still in. Hundreds of messages to his boss. 11 at night, 6 in the morning, all weekend. All the times that should have been for him to play with his daughter, to eat dinner with his wife. I thought of the evenings he carried his phone into the bathroom, saying, "Just company stuff, boring." It had all been her. I used my entire lunch break to create a document on my computer. Every hotel charge, every suspicious business dinner, every Thursday night he said he worked late, every block of dense messaging with Amanda's number, every post she appeared in, every comment, every icon. I screenshot everything, saved it to a separate cloud account, copied it again onto a USB I had rushed to buy at the convenience store. Evidence. Marcus told me to collect evidence, and that's exactly what I was doing. But evidence of what? I had evidence of emotional intimacy, of lies, of misplaced priorities. But was that enough? Would a court care that my husband texted his boss more than his wife, threw his boss a grand birthday party while forgetting his wife's birthday? Or would I just look like a jealous woman who couldn't stand her husband having work relationships with another woman? At 3 in the afternoon, my phone rang. It was Tony. "Mrs. Shirley, I have a quick update. I checked your husband's booking pattern. The Meridian Hotel confirmed he has a reservation for tomorrow night, Thursday, room 847. Check-in is at 6 p.m. My heart slammed so hard I could hear it in my chest. "How do you know that?" "I have my connections. That's what you're paying for. Tomorrow at 5:30, I'll be in front of the hotel. I'll follow him, document everything, take photos. You'll have a full report Friday morning." After the call, I stared at my computer screen and couldn't read a single number anymore. Everything blurred. Just 24 more hours. Then I would know. I left work at 5:30, picked Chloe up from school. She sat quietly in the car, drawing crooked shapes on the foggy layer of breath on the window. We got home around 6:15. The house, even with the 2 of us in it, felt empty. I reheated something simple for dinner. Chicken nuggets and noodles, the one thing Chloe would at least eat without arguing. At 7 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message. "Brutal day. I might have to stay in the city again. Don't wait up. Go to sleep first." Tomorrow was Thursday. Tomorrow, at 6 p.m., he would check into room 847 at the Meridian. Tomorrow, I would finally see clearly the thing I had only dared to guess until now. I typed back, "It's okay. Don't overwork yourself." He sent back a heart emoji, as if a tiny heart on a screen could patch up a marriage that was tearing apart. At 8:30, I took Chloe to bed, read her a few chapters from the book about the little wizard boy she was obsessed with. She fell asleep halfway through, her breathing slow and even, her hand still holding the book. I sat there for a while longer, watching her, thinking that a child that small deserved parents who, even if they didn't love each other anymore, at least respected each other enough not to turn one another into a joke. Downstairs, I poured myself a glass of wine. I rarely drank, but tonight felt like a boundary. Like the last night of a chapter where I had let myself believe in something that wasn't real. At 11 p.m., I heard the garage door open. Samuel came home. I heard the car, the door closing, the quiet footsteps in the kitchen. I was still sitting in the living room, the wine glass empty, the lights off. He stood in the doorway. "You're still up?" He stepped closer. Even in the dim light, I could see a faint lipstick mark on his neck, smell a strange perfume I had never bought for him, see the slight wrinkles in his shirt, like it had been pressed against a surface that wasn't an office chair. Seeing me silent, he went on. "Today was brutal. Amanda went over the top with this presentation. Sometimes I swear she forgets employees have private lives too." The lie slid out of his mouth smoothly. frighteningly so, like something he had practiced many times in front of a mirror. "You have to stay in the city again tomorrow?" I asked, trying to keep my voice normal. "Probably. Thursday is the final deadline. I might sleep over again so I don't have to drive back." "Sleep over in the city. Room 847 at the Meridian." "Yeah, that makes sense," I said. He bent down to kiss my forehead. I didn't move away. I watched him go upstairs, heard the sound of the shower turning on. I stayed sitting there in the darkness a little longer, then stood up, went back to the living room. Tomorrow, everything would either completely shatter or, by some miracle, turn out differently. But deep down, I already knew what the outcome would be. Thursday dragged by with the slow, helpless feeling of a train racing straight toward a cliff. You can see the track ahead clearly. You know exactly where it will end. But your foot can't reach the brake. Your hands can't touch the wheel. There is nothing left to do but sit there and wait for the impact. Early that morning, I called in sick. I still got up and made breakfast for Chloe, still spread butter on the toast, poured the milk, tucked her lunchbox into her backpack, still bent down to kiss her forehead at the school gate. A whole chain of familiar motions of an ordinary morning carried out by a woman who no longer felt ordinary at all. After leaving her at school, I didn't go straight home. I drove aimlessly around our neighborhood, past neatly trimmed lawns, two-car garages, past the park where Chloe played on the slide, past the grocery store where Samuel and I used to shop on Saturday mornings, back when we were still truly husband and wife, not two parallel lives sharing the same roof. Eventually, I stopped at a small cafe downtown. I ordered a black coffee, sat in a corner, and watched people go on with their normal day. A couple in their early 20s sharing a muffin, laughing hard at something on a phone. An old man in glasses reading the newspaper, frowning now and then. A woman in office clothes typing furiously on a laptop. All of it peaceful, untouched by the kind of pain I was sitting here waiting to crash into me. After that, I went into a home goods store, tried to keep myself busy, walked up and down the aisles, looked at shelves, at drill sets, bought nothing. I went into the library, picked up a book, read the same line over and over, without understanding a single word. I drove out to the beach, even though the sky was gray, the wind cold, the sand nearly empty, only a few stubborn runners moving as if nothing in this world mattered except their heartbeat. I walked along the shore, hands shoved deep into my coat pockets, watching the waves roll in and pull back, steady, indifferent. My marriage was ending. That was the truth of this day. Even if nothing happened at the hotel tonight, which with the amount of evidence I had was nearly impossible. Even if Samuel went up alone and just slept, inside me, this marriage was already broken. I could not pretend I hadn't seen what I had seen. I could not go back to being the naive wife who believed late meetings. Trust, once cracked, does not smooth itself back out. It leaves a scar. Sometimes it never heals. At 5:15, Samuel texted, "Heading to the hotel, dead tired. I'll probably order room service and sleep early. Miss you and Chloe." Order food and sleep early. Right. I didn't reply right away. I stared at the message, at the ease with which he lied, at the way he treated deceiving his wife like changing a shirt. Finally, I typed, "Get some rest. See you tomorrow." I deliberately didn't add "love you." Sending love right now would feel like betraying myself. At exactly 6, Tony called. "Your husband just checked in, alone, just letting you know," he said. "I'm standing in the building across the street, clear view of the windows. Room 847 faces east." "Okay," I replied, my throat dry. "I'll keep watching. If anyone enters the room, I'll photograph it. If he leaves, I'll follow." I made dinner for Chloe. Noodles with butter and cheese, her favorite because it was simple. The two of us sat at the table, Chloe chatting about friends, about the upcoming field trip to the Science Museum. At 7:30, Tony's message came in. "Someone just entered the hotel. Female, early 40s, office clothes, brown hair, matches your description. She's going to the elevators. I'll confirm." My heart felt like it was being crushed in a fist. A few minutes later, another message. "Confirmed. She took the elevator to the 8th floor, used a keycard to open 847. I have photos." I told Chloe I needed to use the bathroom, locked the door, sat down on the toilet, both hands clutching my head. My phone vibrated. A photo appeared. The front entrance of the Meridian Hotel. Amanda captured mid-step as she walked in, half her face in profile, coat neat, handbag on her shoulder. The second image. A window on the 8th floor, the curtain not yet fully drawn. Two shadowy figures standing close together inside. A few seconds later, the curtain was pulled tightly shut. There was nothing left to see. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The air thickened. The bathroom walls seemed to slide closer. The floor tilted just slightly. The phone rang. "Mrs. Shirley, it's me. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you hoped for." "I know. Just keep going," I said. "I want to know everything. How long he stays, when she leaves. All of it." "All right. I'll send the full report in the morning. Tonight, if anything important happens, I'll text." He told me to try to sleep. Advice so absurd it was almost laughable. I stayed in the bathroom another 20 minutes, breathing deep, splashing cold water on my face, practicing pulling my expression back into something normal enough to walk out to the living room with my child. I tried smiling in the mirror, but it looked like a temporary sticker stuck crooked on a mask. When I walked out, Chloe was still watching cartoons. We sat there and finished the episode, and at 9, I took her to bed, continued the unfinished story, straightened the blanket, turned on the nightlight, placed the glass of water at the head of the bed like I always did. "I love you, Mom," she murmured and fell asleep without realizing it. I went downstairs, poured myself another glass of wine, but barely tasted it. 11:15. 11:23. Another message. "Ms. Amanda left the hotel alone. I have photos." She looked relaxed, carrying her bag and coat, got into a rideshare, estimated she was in the room nearly 4 hours. Attached were several photos. Amanda walking out the hotel's front door, hair slightly messy, coat draped over her arm, the relaxed face of someone who'd just had a satisfying evening. If this were a movie, this would be the scene where I smashed the glass, screamed, rushed in and caused a scene. But I didn't feel the surge of rage I expected. Instead came a strange emptiness, as if someone had slowly removed everything inside me, one piece at a time, leaving only a shell with my name, my face, my voice, but nothing heavy enough left to anchor it to the ground. 11:47. The phone vibrated again. Samuel was calling. I stared at his name on the screen for a long time, let it ring 3 times, weighing whether not to answer, or to answer, and say everything straight out, tell him not to come home anymore, not to bring the body that had just lain next to another woman back here to pretend tenderness. In the end, I answered, forcing my voice back to normal. "Are you asleep?" "Not yet. I just wanted to say goodnight. I feel bad for being gone so much lately." The lie slipped out light as air, as if he hadn't just spent 4 hours in a room whose number I knew, whose window direction I knew, even whose curtain color I could imagine. "It's okay," I said. "Your work is important," I said. "Tomorrow you'll probably be really busy." "Yeah, tomorrow there's the presentation with Amanda. I'm nervous as hell." He was nervous about the presentation, while I was holding proof of his betrayal in my hands. "I love you, Shirley." Those 4 words passed through my ears, sounding like acid. I hung up before anything irreversible could slip out of me. The house fell completely silent, only the steady ticking and the weight of the truth pressing on my chest. I opened Tony's messages again, opened each photo, looked over and over, then moved everything into a separate folder, backed it up to a cloud account, sent a copy to Marcus, careful the way people document experimental data. Not in a fit of rage, not to torture myself, but with the cold clarity of someone who had finally stopped lying to herself. It was nearly 1 in the morning before I shut the phone off. I didn't go back to the marital bedroom, but returned to the living room, the room that was slowly becoming my official place to sleep. Lying in the dark, eyes wide open staring at the ceiling, I realized something. Inside, I had already decided. This marriage had ended the moment Samuel chose to click that hotel reservation, from the first time he placed his hand on another woman's waist in that photo, from tonight when he lay next to someone else, and then lifted his phone to call home and say, "I love you." Not because I wanted a divorce. Not because I hadn't tried hard enough. But because you cannot go on building one shared life with a person who is secretly building another life in parallel, with someone else, somewhere else. I would protect my daughter, protect the rest of my own life. And when everything was in place, I would do what needed to be done. No screaming, no spectacle, no jealous scene in a hotel lobby like in a cheap movie. I would simply put the truth in front of him, clearly, fully, impossible to deny. And by the time Samuel realized what was happening, every door he once believed he held in his hands would be closed, gently but decisively, with no way left for him to open them again. Friday morning arrived with that annoyingly bright sunshine, the kind of overly cheerful light flooding through the living room window. At 7:03, I heard the faint rumble of Samuel's car pulling into the driveway. I had been awake for a long time, already dressed neatly, already telling myself over and over that I had to play my role perfectly. The role of the wife who knew nothing, who still believed, still supported, still acted carefree. Just thinking about it made me tired. I heard the key turn, the front door open, the thud of a bag hitting the floor, footsteps on the stairs. He stood at the doorway of the living room, still wearing the exact same clothes as last night. Only his tie was off, his hair a mess, dark circles under his eyes, but his face trying to look calm. He walked over, bent down, and kissed my lips. I stayed still. I didn't turn my face away, didn't push him back, just stood there and accepted that kiss like a social gesture. "How was the hotel?" I asked, forcing a neutral voice. "Normal, kind of boring," he answered quickly. "I just sat fixing slides with Amanda for a bit, and then passed out. Didn't even have the energy to order room service like I planned. Dead tired." The lies flowed out smoothly, like he had practiced them 100 times. Suddenly, I wondered how many times over the past few months he had looked straight into my eyes and told, "Fiction," and I had obediently nodded, believed every word, because I wanted to believe. Chloe was already sitting up in bed when I went into her room, hugging the dinosaur book she had been obsessed with for weeks. When we went down to the kitchen, Samuel was already rummaging in the cabinet for eggs and bread, quietly whistling like a man who had just had a good night's sleep instead of a business trip at a hotel. "Good morning, princess." He opened his arms. Chloe stepped in for a hug, but I saw clearly that the hug was shorter than before. She pulled away sooner, no longer clinging to her dad's chest the way she used to. Children know, even if they don't have the words to name what they feel. The three of us made breakfast together. Fried eggs, toast, orange juice. From the outside, if someone happened to walk past our window at that moment, they might have thought, "This family looks warm." 3 people moving in rhythm around the familiar kitchen, sharing the cutting board, sharing the pan, sharing the plates. But inside, I felt like I was standing in a room already filled with gas, just waiting for a small spark. Samuel's phone kept buzzing on the kitchen table, the screen lighting up, going dark, lighting up again, and every time he glanced at it, there was either a faint smile or a pretend, worried frown. "Work email?" I asked, as if just asking out of habit. "Yeah," he shrugged. "Amanda is stressing herself sick over the presentation. She always overthinks, but honestly, we're a really good team. She trusts me to handle the hard parts." After we ate, Samuel went upstairs to change into his dark blue suit. Chloe struggled with the zipper on her backpack. My phone buzzed with a new email notification. The subject line hit me immediately. "Detailed report, surveillance Thursday night." From Tony. Attached were more than 30 high-resolution photos, each with clear timestamps in the corner. The last part of the report read like a kind of condolence, based on the time, location, manner of meeting, and level of intimacy observed. There is a strong likelihood this is a romantic and/or sexual extramarital relationship. If the client wishes, we can continue surveillance to establish a behavioral pattern. Invoice attached. Sincere condolences on this result. Sincere condolences sounded like something written on a funeral wreath. And something had indeed died. Not just one night, not just one promise, but our family. After dropping Chloe at school, I didn't go back to the office, but drove straight to Marcus's firm. Marcus's office was on a high floor of a glass building with windows overlooking the harbor. He met me in the lobby, already holding 2 paper cups of coffee. "I've read everything," he said, opening the door to a small conference room. "Shirley, I'm really sorry." I sat down and said, "I just need to know what I do next." Marcus opened a thick file folder, already prepared on the table. Inside was a stack of almost complete documents: the divorce petition, a draft property settlement, proposals regarding child custody. "First," he said, his voice shifting into professional mode, "the house. The house has been in your name from the beginning. It's inherited property from before the marriage. No joint ownership, no joint refinance. So in principle, it remains solely yours." I nodded. "Income," Marcus continued, "his is slightly higher than yours, combined with the very clear evidence of infidelity and the fact that for years you've been the primary caregiver, you are in a fairly strong position to request child support in primary custody. I will propose to the court that Chloe continuing to live with you in the familiar house, maintaining her school and routine, is in her best interest. Samuel will have visitation rights, weekends, holidays by agreement, unless there is violence or harm involved, which in your case there isn't." I swallowed the tightness in my throat when I heard the phrase, "a child of divorce." I thought about Chloe, about the upcoming holidays, about how in just a few weeks it would be Thanksgiving, then Christmas. She was still excitedly talking about school festivals, about how, "This year I want to make a turkey out of colored paper." "I want to wait until after Thanksgiving," I said slowly. "Give her one last holiday that she still thinks is normal. We file at the beginning of December." Marcus nodded. "That still gives us time. You use this time to do 2 things. 1, continue documenting everything. If Samuel stays at the Meridian again, have Tony keep following him. The more of a pattern we have, the better. 2, prepare your child." We spent nearly another hour reviewing the full list of assets, debts, income, savings accounts, retirement funds, insurance, all the dry details that now determined so much of the future for my daughter and me. He noted the documents I needed to copy: bank statements, work schedules, school pickup schedules, anything that showed I was the primary caregiver. Before I left, he handed me 2 business cards, one for a child psychologist, one for an adult therapist. "Call them this week," he said. "You don't have to be strong all the time." Stepping out of the building, I was surprised to feel calm, not relieved, not happy, but the feeling of having a clear path in front of me. I couldn't control what Samuel did at the hotel, couldn't make Amanda disappear, couldn't turn back time to the night he should have booked my birthday dinner instead of ordering a cake for his boss. But I could control what I would do with what had happened. I could choose to protect myself and my daughter instead of standing still and letting others decide for us. And I could be sure of one thing. When this house finally exploded, my daughter and I would not be standing in the rubble empty-handed. We would have a home, a stable income, and a plan. Act 8. After Thanksgiving, I sat across from Marcus again, watching his fingers slide across the iPad as he opened one financial file of Samuel's after another. He looked up, the corner of his mouth lifting slightly, the quiet smile of a man who had just watched a fat piece of prey walk straight into a trap. "Not only did your husband personally register an LLC with his mistress, using your shared home address as the company headquarters," Marcus said slowly, "he also opened a separate bank account for that company using money transferred directly out of your joint savings. And all of this happened while he was still bound by a prenup with an infidelity clause and a prohibition against unauthorized asset transfers." I gave a smile that probably looked uglier than smoke. "So my husband cheated, and on top of that, committed financial betrayal." I took a sip of the hot coffee his assistant had just brought in, much better than the kind I made at home, and asked bluntly, "So what do we do next?" "Now," Marcus leaned back in his chair, hands folded across his chest, "we send the entire startup project of the 2 of them to a Connecticut family court judge, known for being traditional, and with a well-documented history of being extremely sensitive to infidelity mixed with business." He glanced at the file and named the judge, Judge Henderson. 30 years ago, his first wife left him for a business partner. To this day, he has 0 patience for men who betray their wives and play dirty with money. In other words, all the evidence this time is on your side. Ever since that birthday night, my life had turned into a long-running TV drama with me as the main character. At the same time, I discovered that I had skills I never knew I possessed in 35 years of living, such as tracking down every potential investor Samuel and Amanda had approached, calling them, emailing them, even meeting some in person, calmly introducing myself. I am the legal wife, soon to be the ex-wife, and under the law, I currently own half of anything he promises you. Miraculously, the number of people eager to pour money into that investment opportunity dropped almost to zero once they realized the package came with the risk of being dragged into a property dispute lawsuit. Right now, we have the upper hand, Marcus continued, but we need to move fast. The preliminary hearing is set for Monday next week, 10 a.m. Marcus, I asked, what do you think if I proactively propose a settlement? Of course, a version very clearly tilted in my favor. Normally, I'd say we let the court teach him a lesson, Marcus replied, but a fast, favorable settlement would save you months of stress and legal fees. What do you already have in mind? I told him what I wanted: the house, most of the investment portfolio, the entire retirement fund in Samuel's name, and his car. 2 days later, we were sitting in the glass conference room at Marcus's office. Me, Marcus, Samuel, and his lawyer. A fairly young guy with a crooked tie, constantly glancing at Marcus like he was afraid of being eaten alive. Let's be clear from the start, Marcus opened, his voice even and cold. We have sufficient evidence of adultery, misuse of marital assets, and deliberate transfer of joint funds into a newly formed company with a third party. Samuel's lawyer cleared his throat lightly, shuffled his papers. My client is prepared to offer a fair division of assets. We didn't come here to hear your offer, I cut in calmly. We came here for him to accept mine. Marcus slid the settlement packet across the table. I watched Samuel's face as he read, first confusion tightening his brow, then his eyes widening, then his face flushing red with anger, and finally the slow, unmistakable realization that he didn't have a stronger hand to play. This is daylight robbery, he burst out. You want 70% of the investments, my entire retirement fund, and my car. Then what do I get? His voice cracked. Marcus smiled faintly. He gets out of the worst-case scenario spelled out in the prenup. If this goes to court, odds are he'll lose even more than this. Besides, my client is being very generous in allowing him to keep his job, the company with his mistress, the right to use his favorite laptop, his wardrobe, and his set of golf clubs. Samuel turned to look at me, something between desperation and clinging in his eyes. Surely, we were together for more than 10 years. Doesn't that count for anything? I looked at him and saw only a man who had torn apart with his own hands what he once built. It counts as everything, Samuel, I said quietly. It's because of those years that I'm still letting you walk away with the only thing I still believe you know how to value: your career and the business relationships you've built. The rest, this house, our daughter's future, the funds I paid into throughout my youth, will be kept somewhere safer. You still get to keep what you love most: your work and your love. Consider that me being very lenient. Samuel opened his mouth to protest again, but couldn't form a full sentence. The young lawyer beside him leaned in to whisper something. In the end, there was only the soft rustle of paper and the faint trembling of his pen over the signature line, while I sat still, back straight, hands resting on the table, feeling like I had just concluded a business negotiation, not a marriage. I stood up, took my copy, a strange lightness washing through me. Samuel would be left with only his job and a few fractured relationships, and I would keep the house, the money, the future, and above all, my freedom. Act 9. That evening, when all the paperwork was more or less settled, I told Rachel the entire story in a regular old family restaurant near my place, the one she chose, not me. Rachel shook her head in disbelief at how strong and decisive I had been. So at 40, that guy basically has to start over from zero? He'll survive, I said, poking at my salad without really eating. The agreement lets him keep his job, and I won't make a scene. He just doesn't get to touch what we spent years building together. Rachel frowned. Amanda and Samuel's business thing is dead too. Jennifer told me after the LLC mess and the affair leaked, no investor wants anything to do with them. I didn't say anything, just quietly finished my meal. When we paid the bill, my phone lit up with a message from Samuel. I signed everything. I texted back, Marcus will file tomorrow. Silence. Then, I'm sorry. For everything. A marriage, in the end, reduced to one apology sent by text. When I got home, I poured myself a glass of the expensive red wine Samuel used to save for special occasions, kicked my heels into a corner, collapsed onto the living room sofa, and suddenly the wine tasted like victory. A little sharp, a little bitter, but with a long aftertaste that was strangely pleasant. 6 months after that 35th birthday night, when my husband left me at home with a canceled reservation while he raised a glass to celebrate his boss Amanda's birthday, I was sitting in a folding chair in the backyard. My backyard, mine alone, at a New Life barbecue my friends had thrown for me. The early summer air was just warm enough, the smell of grilled meat mixed with fresh-cut grass, laughter everywhere. Chloe ran around with the neighborhood kids, hugging the dinosaur-shaped balloon my friends had brought her. We laughed, glasses clinking. I looked around and saw Rachel, Jennifer, a few former coworkers, some new neighbors, all scattered on the lawn and plastic chairs, holding drinks. I stood up, a little lightheaded from 3 glasses of wine, but strangely clear-headed. 6 months ago, I began, looking toward the kitchen window, where I had stood on my birthday with shaking hands and a phone in my grip. I thought my life was over, all because of one Instagram story, a story with balloons, cake, gifts, and my husband's smile next to another woman. Turns out, that was the moment my life actually began. I turned to each of the faces that had pulled me out of the darkest winter of my life. People say when one door closes, another opens. They just don't say that sometimes you're the one who has to slam the old door shut yourself. I went on, swirling the wine in my glass. And that forces you to look at who you really are. For more than 10 years, I was Samuel's wife, Chloe's mom, the one who remembered vaccine schedules, electricity bills, toilet paper, plumbing repairs. I was so busy maintaining a family life that I forgot I also had a life of my own. I pointed toward the front door, now repainted a deep blue that Samuel used to call tacky and wrong for the house. Now I'm just Shirley. And yes, I shook my head, my voice softening. Strangely enough, that's not even my biggest victory. I looked toward Chloe, running over with a plate of cookies, hair messy, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. She looked at me with a mix of pride and slight embarrassment because her mom was giving a speech in front of everyone. The real victory, I said slowly, is realizing I was never as weak as I thought. I can figure things out on my own, sign my name to hard decisions, rebuild a life for myself and my child. Right on cue, my phone buzzed. A message from Samuel. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll come by to take Chloe out for pizza. I'll transfer the support on time. Hope you and her are well. Samuel now lived in a plain rented apartment on the other side of town, drove his old car, trying to patch together his reputation with clients after the Amanda mess. From bits and pieces Jennifer heard through the parent network, Amanda wasn't doing much better. She'd moved to another city to avoid running into people who still called her the woman who wrecked a home. I raised my glass again. After 6 months, I've learned 3 lessons. 1. Always check the joint credit card statements. 2. A prenup, or any clear financial agreement, is worth more than gold. And 3. Nothing wakes you up like the day your husband skips your birthday to stand in a photo celebrating his lover's birthday in front of the whole company. That slap will really snap you awake. A toast to waking up, Rachel shouted, clinking her glass hard against mine. As the party wound down, friends drifted home one by one, carrying boxes of leftovers and the smell of barbecue in their clothes. Chloe helped me gather paper plates and plastic cups into the trash bag. You're really different now, Mom, she said seriously while stacking cups. Different bad or different good? I asked. Different happy, she answered after a moment, then added, You smile more. You don't stare at your phone and sigh all the time anymore. I like you better now. My throat tightened, and I had to turn away for a second before I could say, I like me better now too. When Chloe was asleep, I went back out to the back porch with one last glass of wine. The sky was painted orange-pink, a light breeze moving through the newly planted trees. My phone showed a memory from exactly 1 year earlier. A photo of Samuel and me at a company party, standing side by side, smiling the perfect, successful couple smile, everything looking so flawless that now it felt foreign. I barely recognized the woman in that photo. The careful eyes, the restrained smile, her hand resting on the arm of the man she thought was her safe harbor. I took a sip of wine, lifted my glass toward the quiet yard. A toast to that terrible birthday night, I whispered.